What should you price your membership and what type of content should you do? Well, I'm going to give you a couple tips real quick. So here's what I want you to think about when you're considering creating a membership site or any type of offer. Start with the price itself. Because if you think about it, if you're doing a $10 a month membership, do you think you're going to come up with different content choices than if you started off with a $1,000 a month membership? Just really think about that. And also, in the real world, as well as online world, there are different perceived value ladder elements when it comes to deliverables. So if you think about it, something that's text written, maybe like an email, might have a lower perceived value because it's just in text. Now, your audience might see that totally different. So that's going to be my disclaimer here, but this is just something to think about in the general sense. Now, when you take something in written format and you put it into a PDF, going from an email to a PDF has a slightly higher perceived value, right? Now, if that was a framework, a checklist, a system, something that was a blueprint, that's going to be a little bit more perceived value than something that is just like a white paper just typed out on the old school equivalent of a typewriter, right? So what you want to do is just look at these little nuances that create a higher perceived value for that deliverable. Now, we just talked about the text elements, right? So if I want to just take that one thing and take it up a level, the moment that it's auditory or a visual, and what I mean by that is a sound file like a podcast and or like a video file like this visual training element, the same information that is in a PDF. Now we have different elements of senses that are going on. We have sound, we have video, we have different elements of body language and other things going on. So there's a higher perceived value to that as well. Now, back in the day when we used to take things into a printed product, then that would have an even higher perceived value. Something that's mailed to you, something that's tangible, has a higher perceived value. Now, also, if you think about it, in different types of deliverables, when it comes to your pricing, as well as when it comes to your content delivery, just looking at the perceived value ladder of different elements that you deliver, is that if I did a live where I broadcast it, now, if I broadcast in a Facebook group live, that might have a certain perceived value, but if you're on a Zoom call with me where we actually had a two-way conversation, a lot higher. If there was 1,000 people in the room and I didn't have a chance to ask a question, even if it's a Zoom call, that has a certain perceived value, right? But if I was only with 40 people, that would have a higher perceived value. Now, if we were just on a one-to-one conversation, even if it was just on Zoom, can you see how that perceived value? So again, keep in mind, like a PDF could take you an hour, and it could be or that email, and that hour that you spend on the deliverable, it's still an hour, right? As an example, it could potentially have a low perceived value. And at the same time, you could give that same hour to like a Facebook Live or a Zoom call, and it might, for your market, have a higher perceived value for that deliverable. Now, there's the resources that we always talk about. So you have your time, your energy and emotional state, as well as financial resources. You might not be able to pull off cool PDFs. That's okay. You can probably outsource that, get the professionals to help you with that, make them look really high end and cool. And with that, that frees up your time, and also that frees up your emotional state, because you're not going to be as overwhelmed as much, but also you're going to have to give up some financial on that to outsource something like that. Now, on the other end, if you think about you showing up live or doing one-to-one coaching, it's only one-to-one, right? So that has a high perceived value to the person that's receiving it. But if you have 40 clients, that's a full work week for you, right? Because you're going back to back in order to give all of them a call each week, if that's what you were doing. Again, frequency is another thing. Little too much. If they get too much access to certain things, they might not see value. It might be more of a commodity. If it's more exclusive, people are going to look for it and want it and everything. So there's these little nuances. Now, of course, in our programs, we go deeper in this and more strategic and, building an offer itself. But today, I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse to get your mind going a little bit, that you have at your disposal, if you know the price point that you want to get, you can create in the same time and energy space. Typically, you can create higher perceived value content pieces that you're going to put into your membership. So for a lot of us, what's really cool is some of it, like this video, I'm not doing it in real time, right? I'm not doing it live. I'm pre-recording. I'm actually batching a whole bunch of them at the same time. That's slowly being released, right? You can do the same thing with your membership. If you had certain deliverables, you don't have to always be live, even though live technically potentially has a higher perceived value because of the two-way interactive conversation element to it. But here you have the ability to pre-produce that content ahead of time, high perceived value, be able to control and save and control your time, because in batching, which is what I'm doing right now, allows me to do back-to-back topics in the same time and space, so that when they are delivered, I could actually be out doing something totally different in that moment, even though the value is being delivered at that very moment itself. So hopefully that this helped you to get a little insight, a little background, get the wheels turning a little bit about the different perceived value ladder elements that you have in your content and the type of deliverables that you might put out there, because that can dramatically make your offer look incredible or out of balance. In the game, sometimes it's the same amount of time and energy space that you're giving. So what could you do to purposely control your time, protect your energy and your financial resources to get the highest return possible? So get out there, look at your content, create your membership on what will be sustainable for you. What can you do that gives highest perceived value that will make your offer the price point that you want to be an incredible offer?